Hey everyone, welcome back to Everything Kitchen. Today I am so excited to be bringing you a festive fall edition of what I eat in a day. We've got some cozy drinks, some pumpkin-y goodies, a harvest salad that was really good. I have just been so inspired by all the space and light, the natural light in the new kitchen. I feel like I have done more food experimentation in the past 2 weeks than I did the entire 7 months living at the old place in the basement. So I'm very excited for everything to come in this channel, especially with the holiday season coming up, and I hope you enjoy today's video. Breakfast, I'm gonna admit it's not the healthiest thing, but it is the season for pumpkin spice, and one of Eric's coworkers gave him a pumpkin from her garden, so I had to make something out of it. I roasted the pumpkin by just cutting it in half, scooping out the seeds and brushing it with a little bit of oil, and then I placed it face down on a baking tray lined with a silicone baking mat. I punctured it in a couple places to let steam escape, and then I roasted it at 350 for about 40 minutes, just until it was soft. I let it sit and cool so I could handle it, and then I scooped out the flesh and pureed that in my food processor until it was kind of like a baby food texture. I mean, that's the definition of puree, right? Right. I wanted to make chocolate chip pumpkin bread, so I started out by making an egg substitute with some flaxseed meal and water, combine it and let it sit to gel for a little bit, and in the meantime I mixed my dry ingredients. I wanted to make them gluten-free. You don't have to. I'll have the actual recipe in the information box. I use the Bob's Red Mill all-purpose gluten-free flour blend, and I made my own little pumpkin spice blend. You can buy pumpkin spice if you like. I just use some cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, and I also like to add dry ginger to mine. Little pinch of salt, some baking powder, and some baking soda. Then separately I combine my wet ingredients, so my flax egg, some of my pumpkin puree. I used coconut oil. You could also use vegan butter. I'm sure that would be very tasty as well. Also some vanilla extract. And then I also added my sugar. I was going to use coconut sugar, but I didn't have enough, so I used a combination of white sugar and brown sugar. I combined my wet and dry ingredients into a batter, and then I folded in some dark chocolate chunks, which are so good, and then I poured half of the batter into a loaf pan that I had lined with a little bit of aluminum foil. Parchment paper would be better, but I didn't have any, and then greased it a little bit, and then the other half of the batter I put into muffin tins. I baked the loaf for a little under an hour, and I took the muffins out, I want to say around the 18-ish minute mark. I just use the knife trick. When the knife comes out clean, it's usually ready to go. I let those cool and firm up a little bit before I ate them, and in the meantime, I've moved on to making my warm morning beverage. Whenever I think fall, I always think of bundling up and getting cozy with a warm drink in the morning, so I started the day by making a coffee for myself and an herbal chai for Eric, since he's less of a coffee drinker than I am. This is the rooibos chai from Numi, and the coffee is the blue blend from La Colombe. It's a dark roast coffee with tasting notes of milk chocolate and maraschino cherries, and I got it from Trade Coffee, who I'm partnering with on this video. With a quick 6-question quiz, Trade gives you personalized coffee recommendations based on how you brew and your flavor preferences, and the coffees are all seasonal and roasted only after you place your order, so they are as fresh as possible. Select a coffee from your list of recommendations and get it delivered straight to your door. I also love that they work with independent roasters committed to sustainable farming practices, so this month's coffee is organic, and it even came in eco-friendly packaging. The first 100 people who use my code SARAH2 through the link in the description will get 50% off their first order. I added a few drops of stevia to the chai into my coffee, and I frothed up some warm oat milk. I'm literally so obsessed with this stuff that I ordered it from the Oatly website because I can't find it in stores near me. And just to be extra, I topped my coffee with some almond milk Ready Whip, which, yes, it exists. I recently found it at Target. I was shook. It is also very tasty. Since breakfast was a little indulgent, to say the least, I made a salad to make lunch a bit healthier. I wanted to experiment with a tofu feta recipe, so first I cubed a block of extra firm tofu. Then I dissolved a few tablespoons of white miso in some hot water for that umami flavor, and added lemon juice and apple cider vinegar for the characteristic tartness. I added garlic powder and dry oregano for extra flavor, and tossed my tofu cubes to coat them. Then I decided last minute to add some olive oil to make it a bit richer, and I refrigerated the tofu in the marinade for a few hours, but I actually recommend doing it the day before. It's better if you let it marinate overnight. At lunchtime, I prepped quite a few ingredients for the salad, first removing the seeds from a pomegranate. Yes, I did manage to stain my shirt, which is why you see I took it off in the next frame and then I changed shirts. Then I peeled and cubed a butternut squash and I seasoned it with olive oil, salt, and pepper, and roasted it on a lined baking tray until it was a little bit caramelized along the edges. In the meantime, I threw together a dressing with lemon juice, some apple cider vinegar, some mustard, bee-free apple honey, you can use maple syrup as well, then some salt, pepper, and garlic powder. I blended those together and then I drizzled in the olive oil slowly to emulsify everything and make a nice creamy, tangy dressing. Then I assembled my salad with a bed of butter lettuce, some sliced Honeycrisp apples. Oh my god, these were so good. They were on sale, and I usually don't buy apples, but they were amazing. My roasted butternut squash, pomegranate seeds, some raw pecans, my tofu feta, some roasted pumpkin seeds, and I drizzled on my dressing. And yes, this is a lot of ingredients. I'm always kind of extra and over the top when I'm making my salads, but this was so good. Highly recommend adding some fruit to your salads to mix things up if you haven't been doing that recently. I wanted to use up the rest of the pumpkin puree for dinner, so I adapted a recipe from Rachel Ray to make pumpkin sausage pasta. Now, you guys, Beyond Sausages finally got restocked at my local Whole Foods, so I'm currently hoarding a bunch in my freezer. I defrosted 2 and I browned them in a skillet, and then I set them aside. In the same skillet with all that good sausage residue, appealing, I sauteed a diced white onion and a lot of garlic until they were tender. Then I poured in a cup of dry white wine. Yes, we getting fancy. I went out and bought wine specifically for this dish, and then I chopped up some fresh sage and allowed that to simmer until it was reduced by about half. Then I added a cup of vegetable broth and the rest of my pumpkin puree, along with a cup of my homemade cashew cream, which is literally just soaked raw cashews that I pureed with water. I sprinkled in some salt and red pepper flakes for heat, and then I tossed in my brown sausages and allowed that to simmer for a bit to thicken up. Alongside that, I also sauteed some kale and a little bit of olive oil, and then I warmed about 3 spiralized zucchinis until they had wilted just a little bit, but they weren't too cooked or mushy or anything like that. At this point I realized I wanted to add more sausages because we were sharing between 2 people, so I fried up 1 more Beyond Sausage, and I also fried a few sage leaves until they were crispy, and I blotted them on a paper towel. I layered the sauce over my zoodles, and then I topped them with the sausage and the crispy sage and some shredded Violife Parmesan. And that was dinner. I mean, it was kind of like a mixture of healthy from the zoodles and unhealthy from the greasy Beyond Sausages. Kind of balances out, but it was really, really good. That's everything I ate on a fall day when I was feeling particularly inspired to be creative and experimental with my food. I hope that you guys enjoyed. I have all the recipes in the information box. Also, don't forget to check out Trade Coffee via my link in the description box. They're one of my favorite brands I've worked with so far, and I think fellow coffee lovers will also love them. I appreciate you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.